And good morning. It's 10 a.m. Eastern and 7 a.m. on the West Coast. I'm Christine Romans. Let's get you current. Breaking this morning, the start of a trial that could determine the future of Instagram and Facebook. What's at stake in the landmark case about kids and addiction to social media. Happening right now, voters casting ballots in critical primary elections in 4 states, the key races that could determine the balance of power in Congress. Tens of millions under heat alerts today across the South. We're also tracking a new round of rain taking aim at the storm-battered Midwest. The forecast straight ahead. And the alleged drug ring busted at Penn State University. Fraternity brothers and pledges accused of packaging and selling cocaine on campus. And good to be with you this Tuesday, August 18th. We've got a lot of news to get to this morning. Let's begin this hour with breaking news. Opening statements begin today in the federal trial against Meta. The company behind Facebook and Instagram is accused of designing its platforms to hook children and keep them scrolling for hours. Meta denies the allegations. In total, 29 states are suing the tech giant, but today's trial only includes 4 of them: California, Colorado, Kentucky, and New Jersey. The others will have their day in court later on. The case being compared with the lawsuits brought against Big Tobacco in the 90s. Major tobacco companies were found guilty of lying to the public about the safety of cigarettes and other products. They were forced to pay billions and make changes to how they operate, including advertising. Joining us now, NBC News business and economy reporter Ali Canal and NBC News legal analyst Angela Senadella. Ali, there's a lot at stake here for Meta. It could face big damages. It could even be forced, how to change how it does business.
Yeah, and if we just start on the damages side, there was an earlier number thrown out by the state AGs, $1.4 trillion. There's been a lot of back and forth on where that number will ultimately land. Another estimate for penalties has been $193 billion, but this is likely pretty fluid. Point is, Meta could be on the hook for billions and billions of dollars. And when we talk about potential changes that could come to their platforms like Facebook and Instagram, they could be pretty significant. So there are 3 main features that are being contested here. One is appearance altering filters. Another is time limit tools. And the third is Instagram's multiple accounts feature. So these are 3 features that are not protected under Section 230. And the states are essentially arguing that Meta knew or should have known that these features cause harm. And then separately, there's an issue about kids under the age of 13 existing on this platform, and that Meta violated federal children's privacy protection. So Meta, even though they're denying all of this, if the states win, they could push for a lot of changes when it comes to more warning signs. And then if something happens in one state, it's very likely other states or even overseas could come and say, all right, you have to make the same changes for my constituents.
This is a landmark case, seen as a landmark case, but there have been other cases, Angela, that the company has lost. Explain how this might be social media's big tobacco moment.
Good morning, Christine. Yeah, so this parallel is not accidental. It is real, and that is because the state attorneys have even said they are following the same playbook, which resulted in massive big tobacco settlements. And so what they were successful with regards to big tobacco is arguing and proving that it's not just cigarettes are dangerous, but it's that big tobacco knew cigarettes were dangerous. They created them to be dangerous. They actually had the research, intentionally hid it, and then lied to the public about it. So that's the same playbook here that the states are pursuing with regards to social media, trying to argue that not only is it that these apps are dangerous, but it's that these social media companies themselves had the research. They did the research to prove it is dangerous and then yet deceived the public about it. With regards to a settlement they are looking for, it is likely similar in terms of all of the things that Ali just discussed, but also even breaking the algorithm to try to change it to not have it be so addictive and harmful, allegedly, to minors.
Ali, Meta has already lost 2 other state cases so far this year. Talk to us about the breadth of the legal challenges the company faces.
Yeah, I mean, they're facing challenges from individuals, from these groups of state AGs, from school districts. And what's happening today is the start of a much broader range of litigation. And Meta, faces more than 3,000 cases that have been consolidated in California courts. The fact that we did see 2 major losses is actually a good thing for some of these states that are now presenting their cases, because what the jury decides, that's usually a good proxy for public opinion. And we know that Meta has really been the face of a lot of negative criticism, not only around social media addiction, but also other types of technologies, AI data centers, you name it. Mark Zuckerberg has really been the face of a lot of that negativity as well. He is expected to testify at some point, TBD when. But to Angela's point, I mean, this could be a big change coming for Meta and other social companies.
Angela, is it enough to just prove these platforms are addictive? Or do prosecutors really need to show that Meta was knowingly creating a product that turned out to be harmful?
Yeah, so they actually are focusing on this knowing element here. But I do want to make a quick distinction where this is not actually prosecutors who are trying to prove beyond a reasonable doubt as if this were a criminal case. This is just a civil action that is being brought by the states. And so they only have to prove just preponderance, meaning that just more than not, it is likely that these companies knew about this. And so that's where all of the evidence of all of the research, all the studies that are internal to Meta are what is on the table and are going to be the linchpin in deciding whether or not they're liable.
All right, Ali Canal and Angela Sanadella, just a fascinating, fascinating trial. Thank you so much. Turning now to primary day, with voters heading to the polls in a few key states this morning, aiming to set the stage for some big November matchups. In Alaska, voters may be seeing double, with 2 Republicans named Dan Sullivan on the Senate ballot. But the race to watch is between incumbent Senator Dan Sullivan and a former Democratic Congresswoman, Mary Peltola, in what could become a key Senate battleground this fall. Plus, all eyes on Florida, with a high-stakes race for governor and the state's new congressional map getting the first test at the ballot box. NBC Chief Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles has it all covered for us. And Ryan, Alaska has elected just one Democrat in the U.S. Senate in the last, 4 decades. So just how real are Peltola's chances here? Could Alaska actually become part of the Democrats' path back to a Senate majority?
It's very much in play, Christine, even though it may seem like a long shot, given that Alaska voted for Donald Trump the last 3 times. But they have a unique way of electing their candidates in the last frontier state. The top 4 candidates that emerge from tonight's primary will make it to the midterms this fall. And that's why there is some confusion over these 2 Dan Sullivans that are running in this race tonight and whether or not both of them will make it to the race this fall. On the primary ballot in Alaska this morning, a high-profile U.S. Senate race with national implications. Incumbent Republican Dan Sullivan looking to secure a 3rd term in the Senate and help his party safeguard their narrow 53-47 majority. But a major challenge coming from former Democratic Representative Mary Peltola, who made history in 2022 as the first Alaska Native ever elected to Congress and the first Democrat to win a House seat in the state in nearly 50 years. Recent polling shows Peltola and Sullivan virtually neck and neck. Democrats now eyeing Alaska as a critical flip opportunity to slice into the GOP Senate majority in November. In a made-for-TV plot twist, there are 2 Dan Sullivans on Alaska's U.S. Senate ballot, the incumbent senator and a retired 5th-grade teacher who also wanted to run as a Republican. State election officials tried to remove the retired teacher over concerns about voter confusion. The Alaska Supreme Court ruling that both Sullivans could appear on the ballot, but ordered election officials to list their respective names like this, so voters know who is who. Sullivan, the teacher, responding on his website, "I am a qualified candidate who followed the rules and filed to run for office under my legal name." But the president accusing Democrats of trying to trick Alaskans on Truth Social, saying the effort was designed to take votes away from our great senator of the same name. The entire Dan debacle making its way to late night.
So it's Dan Sullivan versus Dan Sullivan.
Fallon creating a fake campaign ad that imagined the 2 candidates trying to clear things up.
So on Election Day, don't vote for Dan Sullivan. Listen to Dan Sullivan, avoid Dan Sullivan, and vote for Dan Sullivan.
Ryan, meanwhile, in Florida, you've got voters casting their first ballots under that new mid-decade congressional map. What are you watching there in Florida today?
Well, there's a lot at play in the Sunshine State, and Republicans are hoping that this mid-decade redistricting will help them pick up a few Democratic seats. And so what Democrats are hoping is that their incumbents can hold on in what will be some competitive primaries. There are at least 4 different House races in Florida where incumbent Democrats are facing progressive challengers in new districts that actually lean heavily toward Republicans. So that will be one interesting race to watch. And then on the Republican side, there are 2 races in particular that I'm keeping a close eye on. One involves whoever Republicans will put up to replace Byron Donalds, who's likely to be their nominee for governor. There are actually 2 former members of Congress that are running in this race. Both of them served in Congress in different states, one in North Carolina in Madison Cawthorn, the other in Chris Collins in upstate New York. So there's a lot of interesting dynamics that will play out in Florida tonight, and the results could have a big impact on what we see play out this fall.
All right. It's political season is here. Ryan Nobles, thank you so much. Busy day for you. For all the primary results this evening, you can turn to Steve Kornacki, who will be updating the races on the Kornacki Cam starting at 6:45 p.m. Eastern. Right to the war with Iran and new information this morning. President Trump posting on social media moments ago that there are no talks or conversations going on or scheduled with Iran. He adds that the naval blockade remains in full force and effect. The Hormuz Strait is open and operating. Just yesterday, he was asked about his new threats to Oman and the Strait.
Would you say you're out of patience with Oman as strategic?
No, I don't think they behave very well, but we handle them very easily, just like we do others. We control it with the blockade, and I like the idea of declaring it a territory.
Why might you do that?
We have total control over the Strait.
Joining us now from the region, NBC News international correspondent Matt Bradley. Matt, the 60-day deadline to reach an end to the war has passed now. We have these new comments from the president. He says the strait is open and operating. The shipping trackers say the opposite is happening. How is Iran responding?
Well, Iran is responding the way that they've been responding, which is to sort of remind the president that they do still control the Strait of Hormuz and to make fun of him. That's basically what we heard in just the most recent reaction, a reference to a delusion. Before that, it was the Iranians were mocking the president for his evasion aboard Air Force One in Ankara when he, escaped on a catering cart. So it looks as though the Iranians are very in tune with what flies as terms of political satire in the United States and are using that against this president who, as we know, doesn't really like to be mocked. So this is one of the war of words that we're seeing between Iran and the United States. The actual words, the diplomacy, that's not going anywhere. We heard that from the president finally. Again, as the kids say, he was kind of saying the quiet part out loud. But it doesn't look as though there's been any progress so far, and the president has finally admitted it.
Iran has said it reached an agreement with Oman over a plan for ships to go through the Strait of Hormuz. What's in that agreement?
Yeah, I mean, we've been seeing a little bit of a map and a little bit of laying out exactly what the Iranians and the Omanis would be expecting. It looks as though this would be 2 lanes of traffic, most likely, with one going out of the Strait of Hormuz, hugging the Omani coast in the south, and the one inward bound would be hugging the Iranian coast. We don't have a whole lot of details exactly quite yet on what this deal would entail, but earlier the Iranians had said they had included all sorts of very maximalist conditions alongside this deal, saying that the president needed to stop threatening Iran, that the U.S. needed to withdraw all troops from around Iran in the Middle East and even pay reparations for war damage.
Yeah, I'm watching crude oil futures right now. U.S. crude is at $85 a barrel. Just a reminder to our viewers, it was $67 before the U.S. and Israel launched this war with Iran. Oman, along the way, has served as a key mediator between the U.S. and Iran. How is Oman receiving these new threats from President Trump?
In the same way much of the rest of the region is, which is not particularly seriously. The president had already just a couple of days ago said that he wanted to essentially, if he's to be understood, annex the Strait of Hormuz and make it American territory. He had said months before that any country who was in any way involved or benefited from, it sounded like, any deal with Iran would have to accede to the Abraham Accords and diplomatically recognize Israel. The president has been launching all sorts of rhetorical trial balloons and demands ahead of and during these negotiations, and he hasn't stuck to any of them. So it's unlikely the Omanis are going to treat this statement any different.
All right, Matt Bradley, so many moving parts to cover. Thank you so much for that. We are following breaking news out of Ohio this morning. 2 workers are unaccounted for after explosions rocked an industrial recycling business in Toledo. Firefighters responded to 2 back-to-back explosions at Brent Industries just before 5 a.m. local time. Video showed flames and black smoke billowing into the air. Authorities are advising the public to stay away from the area. Tens of millions are bracing for record-setting temperatures from the Southwest to the Mid-Atlantic today. Some places already feel like they're in the triple digits this morning. And it's not just extreme heat we're tracking. Severe storms are also drenching parts of the country. Look at just how quickly floodwaters moved through Colorado. Streets essentially became raging rivers. NBC News meteorologist Angie Lassman is standing by with your full forecast. But let's get right to NBC News national correspondent Aaron Gilchrist following it all for us in Atlanta. Aaron, the feels like temp is expected to reach 100 degrees where you are later today, and you are far from alone. What's happening?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Christine. We're talking about really the southern tier of the country that's going to be dealing with really serious heat over the next couple of days. We're already starting to feel things intensify here in Atlanta, on our way up to maybe about 100 degrees for the feels like temperature in this area. And I know we're in the south. It's August. It's going to be hot. The problem is when we talk about this heat dome that we're currently under in this part of the country, it's not going anywhere. It's going to be sticking around for a while. And so people will have to deal with those scorching temperatures for days to come.
This morning, a dangerous heat wave roasting the South with scorching temperatures and stifling humidity.
We got that Mississippi heat, not no joke this week.
The brutal combination making it feel like 115 degrees in areas near the Gulf Coast.
When I got in my car, it was reading 116. Now it's 105.
69 million Americans under heat alerts stretching from parts of California all the way to Florida. In Phoenix, where temps climbed to 112 degrees, multiple popular hiking trails are closed this week after at least 3 heat-related rescues in a single day on Sunday, including one woman airlifted in critical condition. In Oklahoma, strong storms turned violent. A lightning strike sparking this explosion at a natural gas facility near Tulsa. Meanwhile, in Indiana, floodwaters are finally beginning to recede after a week of relentless storms that killed at least 7 people. State officials activating temporary shelters for more than 1,000 displaced families. But this morning, the power of community on full display.
I tell you, I got more emotional over the outpour of support than I did the act. The aftermath with all the people stepping up, that's the good stuff. That's the good stuff.
Now, listen, when it comes to this extreme heat, you have to remember that heat is the #1 weather killer in this country. And so you want to make sure if you have to be outside that you are being cautious and thoughtful about how to protect yourself. You want to wear the light-colored, lightweight clothing. You want to make sure you're hydrating, drinking water every 15 or 20 minutes while you're outside. It's important to have a good hat. It may be a silly-looking hat, but you know what? When it comes to blocking that sun, you want to make sure you're well covered, and a good pair of sunglasses are going to do you a favor too, Christine.
I think you look dashing, Aaron. Dashing and smart at the same time. Aaron Gilchrist, thank you. Joining us now, NBC News meteorologist Angie Lassman. Angie, you know, you got a lot of glowing on your map there. This is check on your elderly neighbor's weather.
100%, Christine. You've got that right. It's anyone that's a little more vulnerable. And you can see with this map I'm showing you, this is the heat risk. So if we look at those oranges and even the reds, we've got a whole lot of the country included in that. That means that we're looking at heat-related health impacts. But when you zoom in a little bit and you see those brighter purples, there's 15 million people across the country where we're talking about a long duration event that likely will become deadly. So this is how serious this is. Aaron mentioned that heat dome that is just stuck in place and keeping us running at least 5 to even up to 15 degrees above where we should be, even by August standards. So it's the high 90s, if not triple digits for our actual temperatures. And then, of course, it becomes just downright oppressive when you add in that humidity. 111 is what it'll feel like in New Orleans today. Not much of an improvement tomorrow. Still feeling like triple digits in Little Rock, Montgomery, Gainesville tomorrow, even Fort Worth. And in the long haul, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we look way ahead. Not a whole lot of relief. I think the best thing we see on this is that in Charlotte, you'll go from the high 90s 90s on Thursday to the high 80s by Saturday. But still, it's going to feel quite warm across much of this region. Christine, Corpus Christi on Thursday will feel like 110 degrees. So no relief in sight as far as the heat is concerned just yet.
What about these storms you're tracking? Who's next in their path?
Yeah, this is another case of wash, rinse, repeat, I think. We've got still this kind of section of the country across the Midwest and parts of the plains where we are yet again dealing with the potential for some strong storms and some heavy rainfall. So today, it's across the northern plains and the Midwest where we'll see the kind of unsettled weather. We're most concerned about parts of Nebraska, Kansas, and Missouri when it comes to the stronger, more robust thunderstorms. But even as we get into tomorrow, we're once again going to see parts of the Ohio Valley in the Midwest and the Northeast dealing with some additional rainfall. We know just how saturated those grounds are. We know there's still rivers trying to recede. So the flood risk is going to be a thing that we are yet again watching anywhere from Missouri to Texas. Here's the severe area today. It's a lot smaller than it has been, but still it's not zero. Kansas City right in the bullseye of that. It's the wind gusts, the hail, and maybe an isolated tornado that we're watching. And then when it comes to the flash flooding, we'll see kind of multiple rounds of these thunderstorms over the next couple of days. But Chicago stretching to Kansas City, down to Rolla, up through Des Moines, all of those locations are included in this kind of flash flood potential, as at least through tomorrow we pick up another multiple inches of rain. In some spots, Christine, it could be upwards of 3 inches. And we know the grounds are quite saturated and really can't take much more.
All right, Angie Lastman, thank you, Angie, for that. Much more ahead this hour, including the new delay in CEO killer Luigi Mangione's state trial. The chain of events his federal guilty plea has now set off. Plus, the first witness called in the Tupac Shakur murder trial. Who else is expected to take the stand? And the new drama over that $12 billion deal to sell the LA Lakers. The family with controlling shares now saying they haven't agreed to sell. We'll get you current after the break. New developments in the case for CEO killer Luigi Mangione. His state murder trial has been delayed 3 months to December 10th. The judge now giving his legal team time to argue the case should be thrown out because of double jeopardy. Last week, the Mangione team pleaded guilty to federal stalking charges. Joining us now, NBC News legal analyst Misty Maris. Is this ultimately what Mangione's defense was strategizing for, Misty, to get this trial date pushed?
Yes, absolutely, Christine, because they're not going to want to move forward with a trial if ultimately that state court case will get thrown out under New York's expansive double jeopardy law. So what this schedule now does is give the opportunity for prosecutors to respond to the defense motion, which, by the way, they walked across the street to the state court right after entering that guilty plea, filed it the same day. Prosecutors have the opportunity to respond. And I think you'll probably see that getting kicked out even later than December 10th, because there's likely to be a hearing and oral arguments on what are pretty novel issues and complicated arguments under that double jeopardy law. And keep in mind that federal sentencing is scheduled to take place on December 18th.
You know, Mangione's lawyers are ultimately trying to dismiss the state case, saying it's double jeopardy. I mean, do we know how likely it is?
Well, there's a very solid argument for a couple of reasons. First, in New York, there are a lot more protections for defendants when it comes to double jeopardy. It precludes a second prosecution due to the same transaction or occurrence. So basically the same criminal act. When Mangione pled guilty in federal court and he had to lay out the facts, what he was actually pleading guilty to, he included the actual killing of Brian Thompson. So even though the charges differ, you had stalking charges in federal court and a murder charge and weapons charges in state court, what he said before the judge as a part of that plea was all wrapped into it. So that's going to be a large part of the argument to get this state case thrown out.
All right. So much lawyering ahead still. Misty Maris, thank you so much. Nice to see you. Yes. In Las Vegas, it's day 2 of testimony in the Tupac murder trial. The jury weighing whether Dwayne Davis's own words are an admission of guilt or a work of fiction. The prosecution argues Shakur's murder was an act of revenge after the late rapper and Davis's nephew got in a fight. It broke out in a hotel lobby just hours before the fatal 1996 drive-by shooting. Prosecutors are pointing to interviews and a memoir written by Davis as evidence, but the defense says prosecutors can't rely on Davis's words alone.
Dwayne Davis made sure that the shooters were armed and ready to execute their revenge. And remarkably, you will learn that from Dwayne Davis himself.
what you're going to find is that the state cannot prove to you beyond reasonable doubt the claim that Keefe had anything to do with a first-degree murder with use of deadly weapon.
Joining us now, NBC News correspondent Dana Griffin. Dana, take us back. The jury was refreshed on the murder and the events that led up to it. Lay out for us what the jury heard.
Yeah, Christine. So this whole retaliation back and forth really started earlier that summer and it's involving two separate affiliations here. Mob Piru, that was loyal to Tupac, and then the Southside Compton Crips, which the defendant, Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, was the shot caller for this particular gang. So earlier that summer, there was a golden chain that was snatched at a mall from Mob Piru. And so when they get to this night in question, where you see the video of this beating, that's when they recognize one of the gang members from Southside Compton Crips, Orlando Anderson. He is the nephew of Keefe D. And so in that video, you see Tupac and Death Row executive Suge Knight essentially beating on this man. And so Dwayne Davis even wrote in his memoir that beating gave them the green light to essentially retaliate. And that's what led to the shooting on the Strip hours later. Christine?
Dana, we heard testimony from a Las Vegas homicide detective who laid out the early challenges in this case, right?
Yeah, so there was this code of silence back then, and it kind of still exists today. There was a lot of mistrust with police, and that phrase, snitches get stitches. One of the witnesses actually testified yesterday that she didn't even want to talk about this case publicly because there was this fear of being known as a quote, rat. And so the detective detailed even the moment when he got into an ambulance with Tupac on the way to the hospital. They say he was alive and talking, and he even asked Tupac, hey, who shot you? And this is what Tupac told that detective. Listen.
I was trying to convince him to tell me the name of whoever his assailants were.
And did he ever respond?
Yes, he responded, no, we'll take care of it. So something like that.
Essentially alluding to, don't worry about it, we'll handle it ourselves. Essentially, it sounds like Tupac was willing to retaliate, and he might have known exactly who shot him. Christine.
Amazing. All right, Dana Griffin, thank you so much. Nice to see you. Coming up, new information on the sudden death of actress Hayden Panettiere. The report of cardiac arrest just before she died. Plus, the sprawling alleged drug ring at Penn State University. The allegations members of fraternities now face. We have more current right after this. From a Padres coordinator in ICE custody to history made in space. Let's get you current on the other headlines we're following today. A San Diego Padres minor league coordinator is in immigration custody after being detained at an airport in El Paso. Oswaldo Perella, who was raised in Venezuela, was detained Sunday while traveling for work, according to his family. The Padres say the team recently learned of his detention and is working to gather more information. His family says Perella came to the U.S. in 2014 and has an active asylum case. New reporting this morning on Nick Reiner's murder defense. His attorneys revealing in court that he has already used family money to pay for it, and now he's seeking more. Reiner has been pushing for access to his $1.6 million trust fund. A trustee is fighting the request, citing California's Slayer statute. Reiner's attorneys argue he's entitled to the money because he has not been convicted. A European astronaut is making history in orbit this morning. Sophie Adenau becoming the first French woman to ever conduct a spacewalk. She and a fellow astronaut are now 3 hours into a roughly 6-hour mission outside the International Space Station. They're replacing an antenna that helps maintain high-speed data and communications with mission control. All right, new details this morning in the Hayden Panettiere case. An autopsy finds there were no signs of trauma that contributed to the 36-year-old actor's death. Panettiere died Sunday at an apartment complex in Greenville, South Carolina. Her cause of death is still under investigation. Meanwhile, an outpouring of love from Hollywood. Here's NBC News correspondent Steve Patterson.
Before her tragic death over the weekend, Panettiere spent more than 30 years on screen, from small commercials to hit shows and major films. Now investigators are trying to determine how she died as her friends and fans mourn her loss.
This morning, we're learning more about Hayden Panettiere's final moments. Police in South Carolina say paramedics responded to a 911 call Sunday afternoon. According to the coroner, they found Panettiere in cardiac arrest. Adding in a statement, EMS personnel initiated advanced cardiac life support measures. However, resuscitation efforts were unsuccessful. Dispatch audio from the emergency response referencing a possible overdose.
Overdose, CPR is in progress.
The official cause of death still under investigation.
You're still weak on the left side.
We're not weak on the left side.
Panettiere grew up in front of the world, spending nearly her entire life in front of cameras. First as an infant in commercials, then appearing on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno at 7, before rocketing to fame in 2006 as a cheerleader with superpowers on the hit show Heroes.
Popular? Who said anything about being popular?
But the immense pressure of being in the public eye took a heavy toll. In a recent podcast, Panettiere telling Jay Shetty about the intense fear that came with instant fame as a teenager.
I had imagined younger, getting to the place in my career where I would get paparazzi. It was just sheer terror.
She says that spotlight led to struggles with anxiety, substance abuse, and later postpartum depression. One of the most painful chapters in her life, the public scrutiny over giving custody of her daughter Kaya to her ex-partner, heavyweight boxing champ Vladimir Klitschko, as she struggled with mental illness.
I mean, the idea that anybody would think that I would just give away my child and be okay with it is heartbreaking. Couldn't be further from the truth.
This morning, Klitschko paying tribute to Panettiere, writing that she, quote, built an incredible career while also facing the darker sides of a very demanding industry. Adding, to our daughter Kaya, I will always speak of her mother with respect and make sure she remembers the person she was.
Another moving tribute came in from Connie Britton, who posted on Instagram saying Hayden was bursting with brilliance, shining so bright, adding, I love you, girl. Sleep easy now. Send it back to you.
All right, Steve Patterson, tough story. Thanks, Steve. Now to a multi-state cocaine ring uncovered by authorities at Penn State University. One that, according to investigators, ran straight through the school's fraternity scene, with students accused of making regular trips out of state to buy cocaine, then bringing it back to campus to package and sell. NBC's Joe Fryer joins us now with the details. Wow, Joe, investigators say this extended to fraternity pledges, some of whom were even enlisted to package said cocaine. What do we know?
Yeah, that's right. Authorities are saying this is a big deal. There are 14 people charged here. 13 of them are students. They point to 2 alleged leaders in this, one representing a different fraternity. We're talking about Sigma Chi and Delta Upsilon. These are off-campus fraternities at Penn State. Organizers say basically these leaders would go, they'd buy large amounts of cocaine in Philadelphia, New York. They would come back and bring the drugs to these off-campus frat houses. And then what authorities say happened next, they say there was nothing junior about it.
The evidence showed that cocaine was primarily packaged at the fraternity houses and that packaging was done by fraternity brothers and oftentimes pledges. In fact, we found a pattern of events that showed cutting and bagging cocaine was, for some pledges, an indoctrination.
Then prosecutors say that essentially the drugs were sold to other Penn State students. It was mostly friend to friend, frat brother to frat brother. According to the charges, one frat member said that he bought $50,000 worth of cocaine over time. We should note one of the people charged here is also a parent accused of trying to conceal some of the drugs and money in a safe and also trying to obstruct the investigation.
How big of an operation do investigators say this was, and how long has it been going on?
They're saying it was going on for about a year and a half, so from early 2023 to August of 2024. They say one of the alleged ringleaders is a former student named Agostino Abatiello. He actually graduated back in 2024. The prosecutors say, by buying maybe 100 grams of cocaine every 3 to 6 weeks. Then it grew from selling to friends to actually just selling for a profit. He's even accused of paying frat members hundreds of dollars to act as couriers or to try and re-up his supply. By the way, his whereabouts right now are unclear. He's the only suspect at last check not in custody. We reached out to his attorney, who declined to comment. So did a person who responded to a message on a phone number listed under his name and contacted by NBC News.
What has been the response from these 2 off-campus fraternities that are authorities say are involved?
Yeah, we are hearing from all people involved. So as far as Sigma Chi goes, they describe this as an egregious violation of our values, saying it suspended the Penn State chapter. Right now, Delta Upsilon says members involved have been expelled, suspended, or resigned. Penn State state just overall is saying it's horrified by the allegations, saying Delta Upsilon was placed on interim suspension amid an investigation. Sigma Chi, not a recognized organization, Penn State says. It operates outside of Penn State's oversight.
You know, the legitimate fraternity system all have risk managers and people who are meant to make sure that these sorts of things don't happen. I suspect that the Greek system all over the country is taking a close, hard look at this. Nice to see you. Thanks, Joe. All right, coming up, the last-minute negotiations to avoid new U.S. tariffs on Canada. The products you use that could become more expensive. But first, the $12 billion deal for the L.A. Lakers now up in the air. Why the controlling owner says she has not agreed to sell her family's stake in the franchise. We'll get you current after this. The controlling owner of the Los Angeles Lakers says she has not agreed to sell her family's share of the NBA franchise. In a letter from her legal team, Jeannie Buss contradicts reports claiming the Buss family would sell its stake to new majority owners Josh Kushner and Bob Iger. Joining us now, NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz. So, Liz, this is a family drama taking center court. What do we know?
Hey, Christine. Yeah, well, this is a twist that seems right out of the Netflix series Running Point, which is loosely based on the Buss family. After Jeannie Buss's siblings put out a statement saying they would be selling their portion of the Lakers to Josh Kushner and Bob Iger, their sister Jeannie is now denying that, with her attorney calling on her brothers to retract that announcement, saying she is the controlling owner.
This morning, a long-running sibling rivalry again taking center court in the NBA. In the midst of the Los Angeles Lakers' pending sale to billionaire Josh Kushner and former Disney CEO Bob Iger, longtime Lakers executive Jeannie Buss saying a reported vote by her siblings to also sell their family's remaining minority stake in the franchise is void. That sale would end her run as the team's controlling owner and is the latest legal fight between the children of the late Jerry Buss, the charismatic patriarch who bought the Lakers franchise back in 1979.
After 2 years of endless negotiations, I purchased the Los Angeles Lakers. What a dream come true.
That story brought to life in the HBO series Winning Time.
Jerry Buss, you the one buying the team, right? Yes, I am.
A letter from Jeannie Buss's attorney that was sent to her siblings' lawyers and obtained by NBC News calls ESPN's report of a vote, which cited sources, as the latest instance of a years-long pattern whereby Joey and Jesse Buss leak false, defamatory, and pernicious information. The letter also describing any vote to sell the family's 17.8% stake in the team as a, quote, breach of trust and breach of fiduciary duty. After Jerry Buss's death in 2013, his children took over the Lakers, led by Jeannie. In 2017, she fired her brother Jim as head of basketball operations before dismissing Joey and Jesse during a reorganization last year.
My siblings, all wanting different things, made it very difficult to run the operation the way it needed to be and to compete.
That family dynamic loosely inspiring Netflix's hit series Running Point, starring Kate Hudson, on which Jeannie Buss serves as an executive producer.
I know it must have stung when Cam picked me to steer the ship, but he did. So you two got to get on board.
Now, with the Lakers set to open training camp next month, without megastar LeBron James, who signed with the Philadelphia 76ers in the offseason, a high-stakes legal battle is tipping off far from the hardwood.
Liz, if Buss doesn't sell the family stake in the team, then what does that mean for Bob Iger and Kushner?
Yeah, Christine, so this latest move from Jeannie Buss could very well prevent or at least significantly delay Kushner and Iger from buying her portion of the team, which would mean that, well, they do still become the majority owners. They're still going to be able to buy the majority of this. She will still be the controlling owner and governor. As for this overall sale, though, it still needs approval from the league's board of governors. That's a process that could take several weeks. The meeting for that is set for mid-September. So this could all drag out for some time now, Christine.
All right, Liz Kreutz, we know you'll keep following it for us. Thank you, Liz. When the clock strikes midnight, President Trump's new 50% tariffs against Canada will become reality. Items like dairy products, wine, clothing, furniture, cement, and even hockey sticks poised to get more expensive. Now, the two countries have been holding high-stakes talks, but so far, no deal in sight to avoid price hikes on $20 billion worth of goods from America's largest trading partner. Joining us now is Caleb Silver. He's chief business editor at People Inc. and editor-in-chief of Investopedia. It doesn't sound like talks are going very well here, and these tariffs are using a rare Depression-era statute and really are retaliatory. everyone's wondering, will Trump taco? Trump always chickens out is that Wall Street moniker. Will he just step back and say, no, we're going to get some kind of a deal here?
Yeah, 3 scenarios. 1, no deal, and there will be 50% new tariffs on the products you just described. 2, there is some sort of a deal, and the retaliatory tariffs that we've put on Canada and they've put on our whiskey and our cheese, those come off as well. 3, they'll delay this, which is probably the most likely outcome. They've been negotiating for weeks and not really getting anywhere, but it's complicated because in Canada there are 10 provinces that have to agree on this. It's not just the federal government that can just say, this is what we're doing. These provinces need to agree. They all have their own relationships with partners in the U.S., and that's one of the reasons it's complicated. But also, the tariffs have been very punitive on both sides, but especially U.S. to Canada.
And look, some of those provinces, they don't want Canadian alcohol on their shelves because
they don't want Tennessee whiskey on
their shelves. Right, because their voters don't want it. If you want to get reelected, you got to protect dairy in Canada, and you got to stand up to the United States a little bit.
Yeah, so that's part of it, and it looks like there'll be some sort of an impasse for some time. Remember, we do about $719 billion worth of trade with Canada, one of our biggest trading partners. Now, the tariffs that are in effect, they're affecting some $30 billion right now, but could affect even more when you think about the tariffs on aluminum, on softwood lumber, and on gas.
Those are all higher prices for things, right? I mean, they're going to X out things like fertilizer. They're going to X out things like energy. But you're talking about building materials. You're talking about maple syrup. The stuff that Americans use and buy will get more expensive at a time when inflation is higher today than it was before the Iran war started. I wonder what the calculation is in the White House about the potential that this could become more inflationary for Americans.
Yeah, well, it's definitely going to become more inflationary. We import a lot from Canada. I mentioned aluminum, I mentioned steel, but also cars. A lot of cars and trucks are manufactured in Canada and then sent across the border to Detroit, where they're eventually finished. So there's those that are under tariff as well. And this is all because of this breakdown in the U.S. Mexico-Canada agreement. We had an agreement that actually Trump put in place. Right. And every year now, because he doesn't like the terms of it, they have to renegotiate it. They cannot get past this level of negotiation. I would expect higher prices on all these items, but also a delay while they try to figure this out.
And that has been a complaint of the Canadians that, wait, this is President Trump's deal between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada that now he says isn't good enough. At the same time, you have the White House against other allies with very tough talk, Oman, with South Korea. So there's sort of our word is our bond in the United States, or is it not? That's something that some of these negotiators have been talking about. I want to talk about bond yields quickly. This sounds so nerdy, but it's not. And every American touches bond yields every day, especially that 10-year yield. That's something that really influences borrowing rates for things that we use, like credit cards and car loans and mortgages. The 30-year yield is the highest in 19 years. Caleb, explain to America why this is such a big deal.
Yeah, well, stocks get all the attention, but bonds really run things around here because they set the borrowing costs for just about everything. Our mortgages, our credit card APRs, our car loans, and pretty much what we get out of the bank. So when you say our word is our bond, well, if our word isn't so good, our bond yields rise because we become less trustworthy as a government. And when you have this rising inflation and this rampant government spending and a stock market that's way out of control, you're going to get spiking bond yields like we had today. Good news for savers, bad news for the U.S. government.
Well, it adds to the affordability problem, doesn't it, when you have bond yields rising? It is good for savers. So for people who've got money that they're putting in and they're trying to get money out from CDs or high yield savings accounts or treasury products, it's good. But for just about everybody else, it's a problem.
Borrowing costs are higher. Money's more expensive.
All right, Caleb Silver, thank you so much. Nice to see you, friend. All right, from a Hollywood AI pack to oil prices back on the rise, let's get you financially current on the other headlines we're following today. A blockbuster deal in Hollywood between the Motion Picture Association and the Chinese tech giant ByteDance. The deal puts strict guardrails on ByteDance's AI image and video generators. Some of those tools are offered to users on TikTok. The deal is meant to protect copyrighted content like film and TV characters. New legal fees are racking up in that proposed $110 billion merger between Paramount Skydance and Warner Brothers Discovery. Now, Paramount wants the states challenging the deal to post a $2 billion bond while the case plays out. Paramount says the money will cover the fees associated with the delay. A dozen state attorneys general argue the potential merger violates antitrust law. Meanwhile, Disney, ABC, and a number of stations filed suit against the FCC today. They're seeking to stop an early license renewal process they say is an attack by the Trump administration. The FCC ordered the early renewals in April, arguing around the same time it began a probe of The View. The move also follows the president himself publicly criticizing Jimmy Kimmel. The FCC did not immediately respond to requests for comment. Let's get a live check on the markets this morning. The Dow pretty much flat today after major U.S. markets slipped on Monday. Oil prices are trading near 3-week highs as hopes of a deal between the U.S. and Iran are beginning to fade. Coming up, we dive deep into the recent string of multi-million-dollar art heists. An expert known as the Indiana Jones of the art world joins us next. And next hour, the plastic puck that's having a real impact on curbing screen time. Joanna Stern joins us with how it works. We have more current right after this. We are back with a string of high-profile art heists at museums and galleries across Europe. Italian authorities scrambling to solve how thieves made off with 4 works by Renaissance artist Antonella da Messina, taken from a museum in Sicily. Just a day before, officials had celebrated recovering 3 paintings by famed artists Cézanne, Renoir, and Matisse, all stolen from a private museum in Parma. NBC News international correspondent Claudia Lavanga has more from Italy.
While most Italians are away on holiday at this time of the year, art thieves don't seem to take breaks. Authorities here in Italy say that on Saturday, 4 paintings from Renaissance master Antonello, potentially worth millions of dollars, were stolen from a museum in Messina in Sicily. The city's mayor said the thieves may have picked the evening of August 15th for the heist because at that time, tens of thousands of people in the town were attending a popular religious procession, which kept much of the local law enforcement busy maintaining order. Now, despite the presence of 4 security guards, CCTV footage shows 2 people wearing motorcycle helmets entering the museum, and within minutes, they grabbed 5 masterpieces from Antonello da Messina. The thieves then left 2 of the painting behind near the fence outside the museum, which were later noticed by a passerby who alerted the police. Authorities are now trying to work out how is it possible the thieves were able to enter and exit the museum undisturbed, despite the fact the museum's alarms and security systems were operational, according to the museum director, and the presence of 4 security guards that night. Italian media is reporting that at the time of the heist, none of the guards were in the monitor room. According to unconfirmed reports, one was taking a nap, another one was doing her nails, while the other 2 were following the religious procession on TV. The heist took place literally a day after Italian authorities celebrated the recovery of 3 artworks from Cézanne, Renoir, and Matisse, stolen from a museum in the north of Italy earlier this year.
Claudia Lavanga, NBC News.
All right, joining us now is renowned art crime investigator Arthur Brand. He has been called the Indiana Jones of the art world. So nice to meet you. Thank you for being here. Arthur, this latest theft in Sicily happened right under officials' noses. Several alarms, multiple security systems. Are there no longer, are these measures no longer enough when it comes to art theft?
Well, it depends. What we just heard, one of the guards was polishing her nails, the other was taking a nap, so that doesn't help, of course. What thieves normally do is a few weeks before the theft, they go to the museum posing as tourists, trying to figure out where are the cameras, where is the alarm system. And apparently they managed to get these paintings out without getting caught, and within a couple of minutes. So I think they are professionals. And sometimes they have inside information. I don't want to abuse anyone in this case yet, but sometimes they know exactly what to do.
Italian authorities had just recovered art worth millions stolen earlier this year from a different museum in Parma. What do you make of this string of heists in Italy specifically?
Well, we see it all around Europe. We had the Louvre last year, but in Italy, it's one after the other. So I think there are copycats. You know, people see museum thefts are on the rise. These paintings are worth 10, 20, 40 million sometimes. And they think if others can do it, we can do it. They watch the news and they think, don't we have a local museum with, for example, an Antonella da Messina? So I think there are a lot of copycats, people who think if they can pull it off, we can pull it.
So maybe that famous Louvre heist last year may have emboldened other thieves, but there must be, Arthur, there must be a market for these paintings. What happens to them once they're stolen?
Well, there isn't exactly a market. These paintings are listed everywhere. We are talking about it. What you see is sometimes they are being used in criminal circuits as a collateral or payment for drugs, stories like that. On the other hand, there have been cases in Italy where these paintings have been sold to mafia bosses, who then uses these paintings as a bargaining chip to try to get a lower prison sentence. For example, they get sentenced to 20 years for drug-related cases, and then they try to trade some stolen paintings, important stolen paintings, to get a lower sentence. And that happened 10 years ago with a mafia boss of the Camorra, the Napolitanian mafia. So that could be the case in this case.
Just fascinating. Art crime investigator Arthur Brand, thank you so much. Nice to see you. There's much more news ahead. The next hour of Current starts right now. And good morning. It's 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. on the West Coast. I'm Christine Romans. Let's get you current. Breaking this morning, the start of a pivotal trial for the parent company of Instagram and Facebook. What's at stake in the landmark case against Meta? Happening right now, critical primary elections in 4 states. We'll break down those races. President Trump not mincing words about people who are against his new ballroom. We're live at the White House. And OpenAI debuts ChatGPT for teens with stronger protections for young users and parental controls. The growing debate over whether kids should be using chatbots at all. And good to be with you this Tuesday, August 18th. A lot of news this morning. Let's begin this hour with breaking news. We're less than an hour away from opening statements in the federal trial against Meta. The company behind Facebook and Instagram is accused of designing its platforms to hook children and keep them scrolling for hours. Meta denies the allegations. The attorneys general for California, Colorado, Kentucky, and New Jersey are leading today's trial. Another 25 states are also suing the tech giant. We've seen lawsuits like this before. Back in the 90s, Big Tobacco was found guilty of lying to the public about the safety of cigarettes and other products. Tobacco companies ultimately paid billions in damages, and the industry was forced into a major overhaul. Joining us now, NBC News business and economy reporter Ali Canal and New York Times Silicon Valley correspondent Mike Isaac. Ali, the states say Meta fueled a childhood mental health crisis. What are we hearing from both sides as this plays out?
Yeah, so I think the simplest way to think about the state's case is what Meta said, what it built, and what it knew. So the states are alleging that Meta misled the public about the safety of its platforms and that it knowingly built features that they knew would be harmful to young kids. Now, the features that are at focus for this particular case are features that are not protected under Section 230. So that includes appearance-altering filters, time limit tools, and multiple accounts. And then, of course, there's the issue of Meta knowing that there were kids under the age of 13 on the platform and how that violates federal children's privacy protections. So Meta, of course, denies all these allegations. They say they heavily invest in teen safety and that this case is much more limited than the states are making it out to be. The company also says this is an issue beyond just Meta, that this is really across social media and that you need age verification at the device level. Of course, even if the states win, Meta can choose to appeal this case, and this could be tied up in the courts for quite some time, Christine.
Mike, the ability to keep people scrolling is part of what makes Meta so profitable. If the company loses this case, I mean, does it have to really change its entire business model?
Yeah, you nailed it. This is basically baked into how they've been so successful and how they keep basically printing money every quarter. I think there's a lot of things they will have to think about how the products are designed, and, for a while they've been saying, here's some tools to check in with you on, how long you've been using the product, or try to develop ways to determine if someone is under the age of 13, because obviously it's pretty easy to lie when you're signing up on some of these. But I think, as Ali mentioned, one of the things they're really pushing is the blame back essentially on Apple and Google, companies that sell the devices, and baking in a kind of age verification into the phones or tablets or computers themselves, which is a long-running contentious battle.
Mike, do you buy the analogy of the state AGs that this is like Big Tobacco Redux?
I mean, look, I think I'm not going to say it has the same necessarily deleterious health effects on your body, but I do think the ways that Meta tries to keep people coming back and keep people coming in at a very young age are similar to how companies figure out the lifespan of a user and how long they can keep them using their products. This is stuff that, Mark Zuckerberg in particular has been laser focused on. How do we get people habituated very young so they don't move over to products like TikTok or Snap or whatever the next social app is going to be. So I think there's justified concern on how old people are when they start using these and what are the ways that you should, limit those types of behaviors.
Ali, Meta already lost 2 cases in state courts this year. We know the company wants to appeal those decisions. How long of a legal battle is Meta looking at here?
I mean, it could be years and years. Like you said, Meta can choose to appeal, and there's likely going to be further questions around Section 230. And it's also very likely that the Supreme Court will have to weigh in at some point. And those 2 losses that you mentioned, they matter. I spoke with one lawyer who said that gives these state AGs the upper hand in these cases. Even if Meta wanted to settle, it's likely the state AGs wanted to just take this to court at this point. And of course, this shows that the jury, they're listening to these arguments and they're siding with the plaintiffs. So what the jury says, that's a pretty good proxy for the court of public opinion and the negative sentiment around these social media sites.
And you've mentioned Section 230. We should define what that is. That is the federal statute that protects it from the language or the speech that's happening on its site, that it is not, it's the third party language, right?
Right. That these major companies, that they're not responsible for the content that's posted on their platforms.
They're a platform. Mike, OpenAI launched ChatGPT for teens today. As we're talking about social media here, the company says it limits conversations around topics like self-harm, eating disorders. Do you see this as a reaction to the scrutiny Meta and social media writ large is under?
100%. There is no coincidence on their timing releasing this morning. I know in particular the 2 CEOs of these companies, there's not a lot of love lost between each other. And so I want to say OpenAI kicking this off as a new initiative on the very same day that Meta is on trial for these issues is really a way of differentiating AI companies or trying to differentiate themselves from Meta and saying we are trying to be responsible. I do think that I think they basically have to think about these similar issues and the similar types of potentially addictive behavior, but it's absolutely a way to differentiate.
All right, Ali Cannell and Mike Isaac, it's going to be an interesting run. Thanks, both of you, for being here. Turning now to primary day, voters are heading to the polls in several states this morning, though much of the spotlight is on Florida, where voters there will decide on some high-stakes races that could help shape the fight in November's midterms. From the battle to replace Governor Ron DeSantis to the race for Secretary Marco Rubio's former Senate seat, and the first big test of Florida's newly redrawn congressional map. And then there's Alaska, a Senate race with national implications, where Democrat Mary Peltola is challenging Republican incumbent Dan Sullivan, who also happens to have another Republican named Dan Sullivan on the Republican ballot. NBC Chief Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles has it all covered for us. And Ryan, after that unusual wave of a mid-decade restructuring across the country, Republicans in Florida are hoping their new map could help them pick up, 4 more House seats. Walk us through the key races you're watching today.
Yeah, and I think tonight's primary results will go a long way to determining whether or not Democrats have a shot at holding on to these 4 districts that were once Democratic advantage districts and now are more Republican advantage districts. These are the 4 incumbents that Republicans are targeting: Kathy Castor, Darren Soto, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and Jared Moskowitz. Each one of their districts now is a district that Donald Trump won in the 2024 election. But given the fact that President Trump's approval rating is in the 30s, Democrats believe that they can hold all these seats if their incumbents make it through the primaries. They're each facing progressive challenges to their left. If those more progressive challengers end up winning the general election, it may make it more difficult for them to win in the fall. So this is just another page in this ongoing book that's being written about the push and pull between the progressive left of the Democratic Party and the more moderate middle. Democrats argue that they've got to have all of those voters to win in the fall, but it may be more difficult if those progressives emerge out of the primary here tonight.
Hey, Ryan, Florida will have a new governor for the first time in 8 years, Ron DeSantis, term limited, in addition to a key Senate race to fill the former Senator Marco Rubio's seat. Walk us through these races and what you're watching there.
Yeah, we don't expect too many surprises, even though these are competitive races. But keep in mind, Democrats have not well, they've actually only won one statewide race in Florida since 2018, and that was a lower ballot race for agriculture commissioner. They haven't had a senator or a governor that's a Democrat since 2012, but they do have hope, particularly in the governor's race. That's where David Jolly, who's a former Republican congressman, is running for the Democratic nomination for governor. He will likely face off against Byron Donalds, who is a rising Republican star, somebody that has Donald Trump's backing and will likely win the Republican primary. On the Senate side, Ashley Moody, who was appointed to that seat to replace Marco Rubio when he became Secretary of State, is now running for a full 6-year term. She has really kept kind of a low profile, and she will likely face off against Alexander Vindman, who you may remember from the Trump impeachment trials. So Democrats like their chances better in the race for governor, but at the very least, Democrats are hoping to have some sort of success in Florida, which they haven't had in a long time.
And Ryan, what about Alaska? A Democrat hasn't won a U.S. Senate race there in more than a decade. Democrats need to flip 4 Republican-held seats to take control of the Senate. So how real are Mary Peltola's chances there in Alaska?
I mean, Democrats are very encouraged by it. This is part of their plan to win back the majority, and they do admit that it's an ambitious plan. But Alaska votes differently, right? So tonight, they're going to have a primary in which anybody can run from any party, and the top 4 candidates make it to the midterm election, which will then be a ranked choice vote in the fall. So there's some strategy going on here. And one of the things that's happening is that there's another guy named Dan Sullivan, which is the same name as the incumbent that's going to be on the ballot here today. That could complicate the incumbent's chances of winning re-election. So there's a lot to watch in Alaska tonight.
I guess there is. Ryan Nobles, thank you. And for all the primary results this evening, you can turn to Steve Kornacki, who'll be updating the races on the Kornacki Cam starting at 6:45 p.m. Eastern. Now to the Middle East. President Trump posting in the last hour that there are no scheduled talks with Iran. He also said that the naval blockade remains in full force and effect, and the Strait of Hormuz, the Hormuz Strait, is open and operating. Just yesterday, the president said that he's not looking to extend the memorandum of understanding with Iran. Joining us now from Tel Aviv, NBC News international correspondent Matt Bradley. Matt, how is Iran responding to these new comments from the president?
Well, we just heard that one of the heads of the foreign ministries, the foreign minister for legal and international affairs, he sent out on X, quote, as Trump correctly wrote the name of the eternal Persian Gulf. Sometimes it's called the Arabian Gulf, and the Iranians object to that. But it looks like the president called it the Persian Gulf. And he said, soon his delusion regarding the Strait of Hormuz will either be corrected or we will correct the delusions of the deluded man. So it looks as though they are once again, the Iranians, mocking the president for his grandiose statements about the Strait of Hormuz and victories against Iran. And so what we're seeing here is a little bit of what we've been seeing for the past couple of months. Not only do the Iranians behave and speak as though they're winning the war and they have the upper hand in negotiations, but they're doing it in a mocking, derisive tone.
President Trump threatening to turn the U.S. military on an American ally, telling Fox News that if Oman gets in the way of a potential Iran deal, quote, we'll bomb the expletive out of them.
I don't think they behaved very well, but we'd handle them very easily, just like we do other things.
It's the second time Trump threatened to strike Oman in just the past few months. The U.S. and Iran had signed an agreement earlier this summer that called for negotiations between Iran and the U.S. ally, though that deal was largely abandoned. While the president also expressing pessimism about diplomacy with Iran.
Well, they want to make a deal, but they're not going to make the kind of a deal that I feel is necessary.
And taking aim at another U.S. ally over the war. Over the weekend, Trump ordering the U.S. military to scale down joint military exercises with South Korea that have regularly occurred since 1955. The president yesterday said that his decision came after South Korea's leader refused to help U.S. efforts against Iran.
We can't go around and protect all of these countries, especially when they're not there to help us.
And Trump repeating that he has a good relationship with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un.
Kim Jong-un has always treated me with great respect. I understand him. He understands me.
And now we are seeing that the president is still trying to force the issue on Iran. But as we're hearing from the Iranians, they are not taking any of this bluster with anything like seriousness.
All right, Matt Bradley, thank you so much. Big change from just a couple months ago when they were signing that agreement. All right, turning now to Washington, the Trump administration has been in and out of court for months over the proposed ballroom at the site of the demolished East Wing. Now President Trump is taking things a step further, telling disloyal.
The people that are opposing the ballroom are people that, in my opinion, are very disloyal to our country, very, very disloyal to our country.
Joining us now, NBC News chief White House correspondent Garrett Haake. So, Garrett, at the beginning of this ballroom journey, it was because we need to host world leaders. The president wants to better host world leaders. Then he said it was for national security purposes. And now the message is that if you oppose him, you are disloyal. How is this evolution landing for him politically?
Well, look, the president is making all of these arguments simultaneously, in some cases for different audiences. The national security audience, he hopes, will be something that appeals to the courts. The broader audience, the broader argument about how being able to host White House events here, I think, hits the broader public. Look, the ballroom's relative popularity basically tracks with President Trump's. This has become a pet project for him. It's something he is personally deeply associated with, deeply committed to. And I think the other argument around all this that it's worth paying attention to politically is the cost. The president has argued that the price tag, now around $400 million, he says, will be paid for by entirely private donations. That's a space worth watching, too. There's been some reporting, including by the Washington Post, suggesting that the real cost could be much higher. If we start to see those numbers come out and a delta between the expected and the real cost here, that could drive the popularity of this project much lower.
We know the president has asked the Supreme Court to weigh in. Talk to us about the timeline there and how long this could take to resolve all of this.
Well, the deadline here for the court to weigh in is this Friday, the 21st. That's basically because that's the deadline set by a lower court judge who had ruled that construction has to stop here. The court is looking at a very narrow legal issue, most likely just the question of standing, whether the group that sued to stop construction can actually prove that they would somehow be harmed by the ballroom. In the meantime, construction has continued. The White House argued in their filing before the Supreme Court that construction of the ballroom is already 65% done. They said they have about 250 people working 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. Here at the White House, we can see and hear the construction at all hours. But what's really going on here, I think, is still a bit of a closely guarded question. The president hasn't really taken anyone inside, in part because of that national security argument they've made about a military complex being built in essentially the pit beneath the ballroom.
All right, Garrett Haake, thank you so much for that, Garrett. Now to the murder trial of Lindsay Clancy, the case now in the hands of the defense after the prosecution rested its case yesterday. Over the last 2 weeks, prosecutors claimed Clancy acted intentionally when she killed her 3 young children. Now the defense will argue Clancy suffered from postpartum psychosis. Emotional testimony yesterday from both Clancy's sister and mother detailed her deteriorating mental health in the months leading up to the killings. They recalled seeing Clancy become increasingly anxious, paranoid, and suicidal. Joining us now, NBC News correspondent Stephen Romo. And Stephen, the defense is picking up where the prosecution left off here. Walk us through how they'll be building their case, especially when putting postpartum psychosis at the center of all of this.
They really are. And picking up where the prosecution left off is exactly what they're doing. So many of the prosecution's own witnesses testified to how Lindsay was repeatedly seeking out treatment and seeking out help. They described her as a good mom. So now the defense team is really trying to connect all these dots and say this wasn't merely anxiety or depression, but this was a woman who was struggling with and eventually descending into postpartum psychosis. Their experts really will likely be the centerpiece of their arguments.
Yeah, I mean, things got a bit emotional. We heard from both Clancy's mother and her sister yesterday. What else should we expect to hear from them?
Yeah, so we've already heard from Patrick's mother today, Lindsay's former mother-in-law, testifying for the defense. It's her former mother-in-law testifying that she was a good mother and she was seeking help for what went on. Interestingly, we did not hear from a prosecution expert witness, a psychiatric expert, to try to tie their argument together. In opening statements, they were saying Lindsay meticulously planned this killing. And Did they prove that beyond a reasonable doubt? It's up to the jury to decide that, obviously. They can still call one of those witnesses in rebuttal for the defense's argument. That is what we expect to happen. Then it will be expert versus expert and who the jury believes.
All right, Stephen Romo, thank you for that. Tough case all around. All right, breaking news, a second deadly school shooting in the Philippines in just 2 months. The whole incident unfolding during a live stream, what we're learning. Plus, nearly 70 million people are under heat alerts today, and it's only expected to get hotter, where temperatures are expected to soar. And forget Cupid, here comes AI. How some dating apps are letting chatbots take their shot at finding love. We'll get you current right after the break. 3 million people bracing for severe storms today with the potential for damaging hail, strong winds, even a possible tornado. Parts of Colorado cleaning up today after torrential flooding. Look at just how quickly that floodwater is moving. Those streets might as well be raging rivers. This happened so fast. Meanwhile, tens of millions are bracing for record-setting temperatures from the Southwest to the Mid-Atlantic. Some places already feeling like they're hitting the triple digits. Joining us now, NBC News meteorologist Angie Lassman. Talk to us about the heat and the storms on the way.
Hey, Christine. Yeah, we've got basically both of those kind of dominating the weather pattern yet again this week. And we're starting off with 69 million people under these heat alerts. We are concerned about, again, the dangers that, of course, heat can present across specifically the southern tier of the country, where we are likely going to rack up some additional record high temperatures by the time we get through the rest of this work week. You can see it, a handful of them, places like Oklahoma City, Little Rock, Memphis, Savannah, Charleston, all included in that, as well as Miami, as we run way above normal yet again across some of those same regions. 106 today in Oklahoma City, feeling like 105 in Memphis, 111 in New Orleans. Ocala tops out at 95, but feels like 112. And this essentially is going to be the story through at least the next couple of days. Notice still high 90s to triple digits and feeling much warmer than that across this same region. And we essentially are stuck in the sauna for the long haul. This is late week, not a whole lot of improvement. Some minor kind of spots where we'll see temperatures dipping down to at least the low 90s or even upper 80s for Charlotte. Elsewhere along the Gulf Coast, not much relief. Still 104 for your actual temperature all the way through the weekend in Dallas, and feeling, of course, much warmer than that when you add in the humidity across this area. So unfortunately, not a lot of relief. So we'll still advise you to find your cool spots over the next couple of days, checking on your neighbors, the elderly, kids, etc. Otherwise, it's, because we have that heat dome parked across the southeast, we've still got some of these kind of thunderstorms firing up and enough of those ingredients to get those going into the afternoon hours across parts of the Midwest and the northern plains. That's where you'll find the severe risk today. Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, those are the locations we're going to watch for that. And then tomorrow, still some additional rain that kind of works across the Ohio Valley, which, by the way, does not need additional rain. We saw all of that kind of moisture focused across that same region last week, and this week, not a whole lot different. So we are going to see a couple rounds of these thunderstorms working across some of those same areas from Illinois back to Missouri and even Kansas. So just a slight risk today when it comes to the flash flooding. But again, by the time we get through, the next couple of days, we could add on a couple more inches of rain in some of these spots, Christine. So we will be concerned about that. Those rivers are still at least moderate flood stage. So we're going to watch for those to hopefully recede, even though we're adding on a couple inches of rain.
Yeah, we know you'll be watching it for us. Angie Lassman, thanks so much, Angie.
Of course.
The cleanup is underway across Indiana today, days after devastating floods, with residents returning home to see just what that water left behind. This story, this morning, the story from one neighborhood of a beloved token emerging from the mud. Here's Jenna Webster from our affiliate in Indianapolis.
Laura Sewell returned to water still in her home, in drawers with floating, muddy silverware.
Well, you can see the bubble. See what's bubbling right in here? I'd say right in here.
Floodwater that at its peak would have been over Laura's head, overturned appliances, and left mud everywhere it touched.
Well, we knew it was coming up, but we've been here for 28 years, and that's no big deal. We've seen it come to the backyard before, but it's never gotten in the house.
The Riverwood neighborhood in Noblesville was hit particularly hard. The floodwater still hasn't fully returned to its banks.
And we actually took refuge to a friend of ours down the street. She said, come to our house, it's up. Well, her house ended up flooding too. We didn't realize how bad it was going to be. I don't think anybody did.
While residents returned to assess the damage to their homes, crews are out assessing this. Part of Hazeldale Parkway washed away in the floodwater.
The opening of the structure couldn't handle it, so the water
washed around the structure and basically undermined the approach to the bridge. And so all the dirt, all the pavement next to the bridge totally washed out.
The water is still too high for the highway department to know if the bridge can be repaired or if it has to be fully replaced.
You know, it's Mother Nature always wins it, and she did.
But Mother Nature didn't win everything.
Yeah, my flag survived.
A 49-star flag that once draped over one of Laura's family members' coffins is drying out.
And my table was turned over, and all this junk was all over the floor. And so I started feeling around and picking up all these coins because everything was like mucky. And this was all mucky, and I just happened to feel it.
Laura's wedding ring.
It was right there by Jesus.
Left behind in the rush to leave, found in the muddy carpet.
Now I'm overwhelmed.
And now the long road to start rebuilding begins.
Wow, what a story. Jenna Webster from our Indianapolis affiliate. Thank you. All right, let's get you globally current on the other headlines we're following today. The Ukrainian military says at least 10 people were killed in the latest round of Russian attacks overnight. Several buildings in the country's northwestern Kharkiv region were destroyed. It came the same night Ukraine fired more than 800 drones toward Russian territory, the military's largest drone attack yet. Police in the southern Philippines say a high school student shot and killed one of his classmates before taking his own life. Hundreds of students were evacuated after shots rang out on the campus. Authorities say the suspect live streamed the attack using a body camera. This is the second deadly school shooting for the Philippines in 2 months. The chief operating officer at FIFA has left the company after a public disagreement with another top executive. FIFA says Kevin Lamore's last day was yesterday. His departure comes about 2 weeks after he criticized FIFA president Gianni Infantino over a scrap proposal to sell stakes in the World Cup to private investors. Lamore demanded the plan not move forward. FIFA ultimately abandoned the idea. An update on a story we brought you last week. The baby at the center of a high-profile surrogacy dispute undergoes open heart surgery. Plus, the plastic puck that's having a real impact on curbing screen time. Joanna Stern joins us with how it works. We have more current right after this. From an update on a surrogacy fight to the Williams sisters uniting on the court, let's get you current on the other headlines we're following today. A baby at the center of a multi-state legal battle has undergone heart surgery in Texas. Rumi was born last week with a rare heart condition that requires multiple surgeries. The baby's biological parents and the surrogate have been involved in a custody dispute after the surrogate said she refused to have an abortion. Rumi's attorney says the baby is now recovering and in the custody of his biological parents. Dramatic video of a massive fire at a liquefied natural gas facility near Tulsa, Oklahoma. The fire, believed to have been sparked by a lightning strike, spread to 3 tanks. The blaze sent a huge column of black smoke into the sky. Firefighters spent the night putting out hot spots. Serena and Venus Williams are back on the court together, playing doubles for the first time in 4 years. The sisters returned to the Cincinnati Open as a wild card. In a thrilling match, the tennis icons took the second set to force a match tiebreak, but ultimately fell 10-8. The sisters haven't played doubles together since the 2022 U.S. Open. Right, today, OpenAI announced a new version of ChatGPT designed for teenagers. It's tailored for young people ages 13 to 17. According to the AI company, the new version includes content restrictions for conversations about self-harm, violence, eating disorders, and other explicit content. Joining us now, NBC News chief tech analyst Joanna Stern. This new version, good morning, is it's really in response to some serious backlash about harm to young people. Does it help prevent that harm?
It hopefully should help prevent some of that harm. As we're seeing, as you detailed, it will restrict certain types of topics and conversation, whether that be eating disorders, whether that be self-harm, whether that even be deeper emotional questions. It seems like OpenAI has gone a little bit farther here. But I always come back to, this is OpenAI making the rules here. This is them deciding, let's do this. Why is this not being forced upon all of the companies that have these chatbots out right now?
And what's the answer to that?
We don't have regulation. Right. We don't have regulation, and we do not have it, especially where I think we need it first, is with these younger users.
Yeah, anything that involves children. How will OpenAI detect if someone is under 18? I mean, what we have seen is it's really easy for a kid to work around these age restrictions on all social media platforms.
Yeah. Well, look, we've seen some progress happening in different states and from the tech companies and the platform companies, the Androids and the iOS from Apple, where they are able to identify the ages of their users, right? And so that's the hope, and that's what a lot of these companies are wanting them to do. But also ChatGPT, or if you're a user of ChatGPT, will have some other signals too, indicating that you might be younger. And so they're going to use those signals as well.
Let's pivot slightly here to the amount of time young people are spending on social media and screen time in particular. It's a bit of concern. Talk to me about this device that you've tested. My son uses this, and it's really changed his screen time and his habits. Talk to me a little bit about your personal run at this brick.
This is the brick. And so, look, this is a device that is supposed to limit your screen time by making it by giving you much more friction to getting back into those apps. So if you've tried Apple Screen Time or Android's Digital Wellbeing, you know that you can set these limits on your Instagram, on your Facebook, on TikTok, and you then just see, okay, yeah, I'm okay. I've not used it for an hour. All right, ignore that. I'm just going back into the app. Yeah. This limits that. And so the way you use this, as you can see, I've not allowed myself to be on social media on your segment here. The way to get back in is that I actually have to tap it to this device, which means I can leave this device in a different location and I have to go back to it. There are ways to get back in through the software, but the friction, that added friction of getting back in, really helps me and is helping lots of other users of this device.
My son uses it, and he has it mounted on the wall. So when he leaves his room, if he decides he's going to the pool with his friends or someplace else, he has designed it so that he can't be on social media while he's away, so he's engaged with the people in front of him. And it has really made a difference.
Look, and experts say, psychologists say, the best way to break a habit is to add friction to it, to make it more difficult to do. And so when you have these companies, we're going back to the companies enforcing it, when you have these companies like Instagram or Meta putting these roadblocks up in the app, they're incentivized to not make it that hard to get back in.
Right.
This device makes it harder to get back in.
So we need devices for our devices. That's what it's come to.
This is what it's come to. This is what it's come to.
People making money selling me something to help me not use the thing that other people are making money on selling my
At least it's only $59.
Okay, there you go. All right, Joanna Stern, nice to see you, as always. All right, there's a new frontier in the business of love. Some dating apps are incorporating AI in hopes of helping you make a match. But some singles have mixed feelings about having a bot as a third wheel. Here's Allie Canal.
I've been dating since I was 15. I'm exhausted. Where is he?
Dating. While courtship has been around forever, modern-day meet-cutes include everything from in-person to matchmakers and, of course, the apps. But now there's two more letters in the search for LOVE, AI. Take Grindr. With a long-standing reputation as a hookup app, the company now says it wants to become something more with the help of AI.
I think AI is the future across all our life. I mean, there's going to be no way to escape it.
Today, the CEO of the world's largest gay dating app says it uses AI to write 75% of its code and has embedded it across the entire user experience. They even call it Gay-I. Take a look at Edge, the app's first AI-powered premium subscription tier.
Okay, so this is the Edge app right now.
Yeah, this is the Grindr app with Edge fully enabled.
It helps users find their type by curating profiles, recapping meaningful chats, and spotlighting certain messages to avoid misconnections. It's still in the testing phase and could cost north of $100 a month. He says users seem willing to pay it.
The stickiness with people who are in the Edge tier already actually has been much higher than we would have expected it to be.
People may be willing to pay up because, let's be honest, dating in general feels sort of broken right now. Lots of changes in the works. Just last week, a major reversal at Bumble, which got rid of its signature women make the first move approach, now allowing men to message first. More companies are also embracing in-person events as online dating increasingly moves offline. Some surveys show 3/4 of Gen Z are feeling dating app burnout. And over the last decade or so, studies show less sex, less marriage, even fewer kids. So is the answer to the problem the algorithm may have helped create just another more powerful algorithm? It's a question virtually every dating site is trying to answer.
I think people are not so much exhausted from experiences online. They're exhausted from stale experiences online. What you need to do is constantly be innovating.
That innovation across dating apps has included everything from AI photo enhanced tools at Tinder, which some say can leave users looking almost unrecognizable in their pics, to an AI-driven coach at Hinge, suggesting opening lines to break the ice and tweaks to profile prompts. Speaking of Hinge, its co-founder stepped away and is now betting on a new dating service built around voice and audio AI introductions. Even with no official launch date, it says it's raised $18 million and has an extensive wait list.
I downloaded the AI matchmaking app Amada, and the date went better than I even imagined.
But AI infiltrating online dating has caused some, well, mixed feelings.
I was set up by a computer. If this doesn't sound like the beginning of a horror movie, I don't know what does.
To find your needle in a haystack, good luck searching, because we know how unsuccessful dating apps have been for the majority of singles in America.
That's the CEO of 3 Day Rule, a matchmaking service that now also offers a separate AI-powered matchmaker named Ty.
We want to know about all of the things that make you tick. Again, the more information we have on you, the better we can find you your life partner.
But is that such a good thing? Some say they don't mind the AI assist.
If it's used to be for something good, I mean, I don't mind it.
While others say not so fast.
That's why we're living in Black Mirror.
Allie Canal, NBC News.
All right, Allie, great report. All right, turning now to the Romans report, and we're talking credit cards. The interest rate on a key government bond hit its highest level in nearly 20 years yesterday. Ouch. That's a sign that those sky-high credit card rates you're paying are likely here to stay, with card rates averaging nearly 20% and store cards an astonishing 30%. Let's separate fact from fiction about your credit cards. First, you might have heard it's okay to just pay the minimum. You avoid any late fees that way. Well, it's a myth. You do avoid late fees, but if you just pay the minimum, you'll end up accruing interest, and it can really add up. So you really want to pay off your balance in full. Next, some people think that carrying a balance can help you build credit. It's also a myth. Carrying a balance can actually hurt your credit score. And that's because one of the ingredients that goes into your credit score is how much available credit you're using. And carrying a balance over and over and over drives that number up. So you want to keep it under 30% to show you're responsible. Now, if you're thinking of canceling a credit card, you might have heard it could affect your credit score. That's a fact. It depends on how much of your available credit comes from that card, how long you've had that account. If you've had it for a really long time, or if your card has a big portion of your overall credit, it could hurt your score if you close it. You could instead consider downgrading it to a card with a lower or no annual fee. And finally, is it okay to spend up to your limit just as long as you pay it all off, right? No, that's maxing it out. That'll also drive up how much of your available credit you're using and can hurt your credit score. Plus, transactions could be declined once you hit that limit, and you might get charged an over-limit fee. Bottom line, watch your credit card spending and pay off as much as you can every month. All right, the number of parents in the U.S. choosing not to vaccinate their children is on the rise. What's behind the trend? Plus, switched at birth. How 2 families discovered their babies were sent home with the wrong families nearly 4 decades ago. We'll get you current after this. A growing trend is causing concern as children head back to school this year. The Centers for Disease Control says more families are opting out of required vaccines, citing religious or personal reasons. And the timing couldn't be worse. Measles cases are at a 35-year high. There are outbreaks in at least 3 states. Health experts warn the rise in exemptions could leave even more communities vulnerable. NBC News medical reporter Erica Edwards joins us now with the details. And Erica, more than 250,000 kindergartners, 250,000 missed the recommended MMR vaccination series last year. That's the 2-dose vaccine that protects against measles. Why are we seeing such a rise in exemptions now?
Yeah, hey, Christine, this is a growing trend that really took off during the pandemic. Not only did kids simply miss routine shots because of closures, that's when skepticism about COVID vaccines spilled to other shots. And now, fast forward to now, it's likely that exemptions will continue to rise dramatically because of the president's recent executive order to cut back on childhood vaccines and his comments that ultimately sowed further doubt on the safety of MMR shots. And pediatricians maintain that those are vaccines that have decades of safety evidence backing them up. Christine?
What does it mean for the risk of measles outbreaks in communities across the country?
You know, that is really the key question, because measles is the first to show itself once vaccines fall. It's that highly contagious. And we're seeing this play out in real time. The number of kids in Utah, for example, getting their MMR vaccine has plummeted from 94% a decade ago to 87% this last school year. According to that CDC data, Utah, of course, is the state that's been unable to control its ongoing measles outbreak for more than a year. And now we're seeing other outbreaks in Virginia and Pennsylvania, Kentucky, other hotspots around the country. Christine.
You know, it's so interesting because the big health success, genius, miracle really of the 20th century was the public immunization schedule in the United States. The rest of the world really tried to mirror as well. It was so successful that a lot of people don't know what it's like to have the measles or haven't seen it in their community again until now. This is a dangerous disease, measles is, and it could really hurt your children.
You know, there have been children who have been hospitalized, from anywhere from dehydration to much more serious problems. They need to be put on ventilators. Don't forget, we had 2 young girls who died in Texas last year because of measles. There could be long-term complications. This is just not something to mess with. Christine.
All right, Erica Edwards, thank you so much. Nice to see you. A shocking DNA discovery in North Dakota. 2 families are suing a hospital after finding out their newborns were switched at birth nearly 40 years ago. Courtney Arnold from our affiliate in South Fargo has the latest.
2 babies, 1 hospital. And a mistake these families say stole decades of memories. In court filings, 2 North Dakota families accused Unity Medical Center in Grafton of switching their newborns on January 26, 1988. The only 2 babies born there that day. They say each boy went home with the wrong parents, and no one knew for more than 36 years.
I had Kyle at age 25.
She lives in Minneapolis and raised Jeremy Morrison, but DNA shows her biological son is Kyle Boleyn.
Our families never knew each other. We didn't hang out together. They were not in the same daycares.
The lawsuit claims hospital staff switched the boys in those first hours when nurses took babies in and out of the nursery. The truth started to unravel decades later, not in a lab, but on a laptop, after Kyle took a test.
I wasn't sure, well, you know, did this come out all right? Did I mess things up? I mean, winter in North Dakota, sub-zero. Did something happen to the test results that wasn't right? So he took a second Ancestry.com test. He asked me to take the test, and I was not really willing to take the test. I basically told him, well, I'm your mother, I gave birth to you, and your dad's your dad, so you're my child.
When the results came back, they tracked down Jeremy, who grew up in Grand Forks and lives in Colorado with his wife and kids. Liz says DNA confirmed what the family was already starting to suspect.
We had professional labs done, so yeah, DNA doesn't lie.
Even so, for both mothers, the news felt unreal.
Shock, disbelief. It felt surreal.
I remember I was in so much shock, kind of, that I was pretty much calm. And all I could think of was, how is Kyle taking this? How is he handling this? Who is this other person named Jeremy? Where are they from? Where are they at now? Do they know?
As they dug into their past, things started to click. Today, Kyle lives in Michigan. Jeremy left Grand Forks for Colorado. But when the truth came out, they came back to meet the families they never knew.
I'm looking at a 36-year-old man who's almost identical to his brother, Darren. Yeah, it was pretty emotional. It was pretty strange at the same time, getting to know actually a perfect stranger.
Liz admits it's been hard on the men.
Knowing what they could have had.
The hospital denies every allegation.
I'm just very frustrated and disappointed that the hospital is saying that it didn't happen on their watch.
For Evelyn, the anger is tied to every moment missed.
To be confronted with this 36 years later is a shock, number one. Number two, I feel robbed. I feel angry at the hospital that this even happened, because I trusted them to not only deliver my child, but to present my child and let me leave with my own biological child.
Liz and Evelyn are still learning how to be mothers to sons they didn't raise. But for the ones they did,
I have 2 sons now.
Kyle's my son, and I love him, and he'll always be my son.
Wow, what a story. That was reporter Courtney Arnold from our affiliate in North Dakota. Both men and their parents are suing the hospital for negligence, medical malpractice, deceit, and emotional distress. The families are also encouraging others born at that hospital to have DNA testing done. All right, coming up, how one program in Hawaii is making the dream of homeownership a reality for families who have lived on the islands for generations. It's part of our series, 50 States in 50 Days. And Finders Keepers, the prehistoric souvenir that made one family's trip to the Jersey Shore one they'll never forget. We have more current right after this. In our series, 50 States in 50 Days, we're introducing you to people making a difference in their communities. Today, we're in Hawaii, where sky-high housing costs are forcing many Native Hawaiians to make a heartbreaking choice, either leave the islands or close the door on homeownership altogether. Lynn Kawano from our NBC affiliate in Honolulu shows us how one program is helping families secure their slice of paradise.
Awesome. Casey Amuro can't help but dance as she and her husband tour their future first home on Maui.
I love it.
5 bedrooms, 3 baths, 2,200 square feet. A new home like this usually costs up to $1.5 million, but the Amuros paid about half that through the Department of Hawaiian Homelands, DHHL, a state agency created in 1920 by Hawaiian Prince Jonah Kuhio Kalanianaole to help homesteaders who can show they have 50% Native Hawaiian blood using ancestry records. Without DHHL, Amuro says she and her family were leaving for the continent.
My whole life is Maui. My family's here. Everybody's here.
The Human Resources Administrator applied for and got job offers in Texas, Colorado, and Washington. Amuro had one last chance to stay. Her father died in 2018. He had been on the DHHL wait list for a property since 1975. She applied and was able to take his place in line.
The least I could do was bring it up and take my right that he gave me. He gave me this.
29,000 people are on the wait list to lease DHHL land for $1 a year for 99 years. And new, innovative ways to move people into housing is helping the agency chip away at that wait list. This high-rise just outside Waikiki will have 278 rental units when complete. DHHL has never done a rental project for homesteaders before.
We're exploring all kinds of different options. We're also working with individuals that can build their own houses. We just supply them with a finished lot.
Okay, that's my mommy. Jerry Burke is hoping to get a DHHL property on Hawaii Island in the next decade. For now, the 69-year-old lives in an affordable senior community in Mount Angel, Oregon. But her unit is filled with reminders of home.
As I get older, that's where I want to die. I don't want to die in the mainland.
For many, the Department of Hawaiian Homelands is the only path to home ownership. There are more natives living on the continent than in the islands, most pushed out by the high cost of housing, food, and supplies. Geographic isolation means nearly 90% of all goods have to be imported, bumping up prices.
Hello.
The outmigration is behind a growing number of Hawaiian civic clubs in other states. This one in Beaverton, Oregon, which offers language classes and lei making. It's proof that even those priced out of paradise can still celebrate their culture on the continent. In Honolulu, Hawaii, I'm Lynn Kawano.
Lynn Kawano from our affiliate there in Honolulu. Thank you for that. On the bright side, a find more than 3 million years in the making. An 11-year-old and his dad turned up more than seashells along the Jersey Shore. They found this, a huge fossilized tooth belonging to one of the largest sharks to ever live. Reporter Ted Greenberg from our NBC Philadelphia station has the jaw-dropping discovery.
my hand compared to.
Their hunt for cool shells on the beach led to this jaw-dropping find that turned out to be millions of years in the making.
I almost fell over. Like I was sitting there, like my knees were shaking, and he's like trying to speak, but like nothing was coming out.
Mike Bowers and his 11-year-old son Bo discovered the huge fossilized shark tooth wedged in a rock jetty along the beach in Sea Isle City last week. Bo's hands were small enough to yank it out.
I was like shocked and like excited at the same time.
The family from Western Pennsylvania says they showed the tooth to experts at the New Jersey State Museum and Cape May Whale Watch and Research Center. Both confirmed it came from the mouth of a megalodon shark.
It's an amazing sighting. You know, that family's really lucky. There's only a handful of recorded findings of megalodon teeth off of New Jersey's coastline.
Extinct for more than 3 million years, megalodons were massive, an estimated 50 to 60 feet long, the largest shark to have ever lived.
It is actually the best conditioned megalodon tooth I've ever seen. It was pretty incredible.
So how did the tooth end up here? Experts speculate that it may have been dredged up with sand from the ocean and then pumped ashore during a recent beach replenishment project.
It's actually a lot heavier than we both thought it would be. What are you going to do with it?
Keep it.
A prehistoric souvenir found during a Jersey Shore vacation this family will never forget.
Wow. Ted Greenberg from NBC Philadelphia, thank you. We are grateful you joined us today. NBC News Daily picks up after a really quick break.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.